It started over 80 years ago here in Rosine, Kentucky, where the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe, was born in 1911. He took the stringed instruments common to the greater Appalachian area, added a unique method of stacking vocal harmonies, and joined those with stories of rural folks and the struggles and joys they experienced in their day-to-day lives. It was unlike anything they had ever done before. He took the name from the Blue Hills of Kentucky, and bluegrass music was born. With the help of Bill Price, a former bluegrass boy, we hope to show you a bit of Bill Monroe's life and highlight the impact of his music.
Satan has parted, fathers and mothers, filling their hearts with his envy and hate, heading their pathway down to destruction.
After perfecting his sound in Rosine, Bill Monroe took to the highways. Through his efforts and his constant and relentless touring, bluegrass music spread from Rosine throughout the world. Today, there are bluegrass festivals staged from Maine to California, from Canada to Europe, and even in Japan. Bluegrass music is truly a uniquely American music art form, sharing this uniqueness only with jazz and the blues. And thanks to Bill Monroe, it has become one of our greatest gifts to the world's musical repertoire. A large part of the success of bluegrass music lies in its appeal to common folk. Bill Monroe began by playing in small communities, at county fairs, barn dances, and community fellowships. It grew from there to some of the best-known stages and concert halls in the country, and then to the ultimate country music showplace, the Grand Ole Opry. He sang of love and loss, good times and bad, of the everyday life with its ups and downs with which so many of us can identify. Bill Monroe established a tradition that continues to grow today and which will carry it into the future for generations to come.
The family who prays will never be parted. Their circle in heaven unbroken shall stand. God will say in turn, my dear faithful servant, and the family who prays never shall part.
Young and old alike share the joy of bluegrass. It offers something for everyone, whether it's tapping a foot from a lawn chair at a festival, playing the spoons, blowing the jug, buck dancing, or gathering on a neighbor's front porch on Saturday night. Bluegrass has always been a music about people and for people, easily accessible and suited for all occasions. It's as basic as hot dogs, baseball, Chevrolet, and apple pie. When Bill Monroe gave birth to bluegrass, times were hard. The stories in his music rose from the oral tradition steeped in family values. His style of music was not conceived on the streets of New York or Los Angeles, but in the hills and the hollers of Kentucky. These were the times when families worked hard. They loved and they laughed and they lost and they won. They sent sons and brothers off to wars. They struggled with putting food on the table. Much of the country, especially in the South, was still rural, cut off from the conveniences that we enjoy today. They needed release from the hardships of daily living. These were Bill Monroe's kind of people. He knew how hard life could be, and his music provided a sedative from the pains of life. The songs of Bill Monroe and those that followed in his footsteps helped them step a little lighter and smile a little longer. Bluegrass music is a music that reminds people of a simpler, more relaxed time. It allows them to forget their troubles for a while and sit back and tap their foot to a lively tune.
And singing of this day's bright bouquet, happiness is renewed at sunrise, and his love will drive the tears from my eyes. Another day to sing, and you dare to sing, another day to sing for my Lord. Another day to sing, and you dare to sing, day to sing, a new day to sing, another day to sing for my Lord. Another day to sing, a new day to sing, and thank Him for each new day's reward.
Bill Price joined the Bluegrass Boys in June 1954. He toured with Bill Monroe for several years. Bill, I'm sure you know quite a bit about Bill Monroe's career achievements. Can you give us some insight? What was it like back then, traveling with Bill Monroe when bluegrass was at its height in popularity?
I remember several years ago, back in the 1950s, when we started in bluegrass music, especially with the father bluegrass music in '54. One tour we had about 14 days out on the road. We went without any sleep, any bed rest. And I remember coming through some little parts down there in Kentucky, somewhere or another, and we just saw a little old creek running water down there, they call it. And we just stopped and had to stop, wrench out some clothes and hang them on an old bush and let them dry so we could have something for the next gig. But it was times of hard back then, but it kind of cued us in as a seasoned musician, and that's something that we all need. And I appreciate the training under Mr. Monroe. It was something that money can't buy.
I believe the words of my I can understand how a soft breeze commences, or where it goes when it's not there, or explain the cares of the Holy Spirit and how He calls my sinful heart to mend. But I can understand all God's creation described to me in His holy word, and I can believe the truth of His promise. I believe the words of my Lord.
Bluegrass music is more than an American art form. It's a part of our country's heritage. It has spread throughout the world and is currently enjoying great success in Europe and Japan. Someone has said that imitation is the purest form of flattery. That statement surely attests to the greatness of Bill Monroe and bluegrass music. In addition to spreading around the world, the influences of his music continue to appear in many popular artists' work. Obviously, there are thousands of bluegrass musicians carrying on the tradition, but Bill Monroe's influence reaches farther than that. One of Elvis Presley's hit recordings was Blue Moon of Kentucky. The bluegrass stomp was a forerunner to rockabilly, which later gave birth to rock and roll. The folk music revival of the late 60s and early 70s paid homage to Bill Monroe. The 70s and 80s saw bands like Newgrass Revival and the Grateful Dead stretch the boundaries of bluegrass. Recently, the rise of a style of music popular with young people called Americana is filled with traditional bluegrass sounds. The band Fish frequently plays Bill Monroe's hit Uncle Penny, in addition to several other songs in the bluegrass vein. There are bluegrass sites on the World Wide Web ensuring Bill Monroe's place in history and carrying his legacy into the next century.
I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Monroe on several occasions. The first time I ever met Mr. Monroe was backstage at the Grand Ole Opry on a cold February evening when I was 18 years old. Another time, Mr. Monroe invited me to his birthday party. He told me to bring my banjo and that we'd pick a little. Mr. Monroe also gave me the ball cap that I'm wearing. The memories of my conversations with Mr. Monroe and the ball cap that he gave me are two of my most treasured possessions.
Well, I never had the privilege to meet Mr. Monroe, but he really inspired me. I saw him many times on television, and my great-grandfather played the violin, and I think that's probably where I got my love for the violin. I think my favorite bluegrass song would have to be Blue Moon of Kentucky. History has really made Mr. Monroe the father of bluegrass music.
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and proved and true. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and left me blue. It was on a moonlight night, the stars were shining bright, and they whispered from on high, your love said goodbye. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone and said goodbye. It was on a moonlight night, the stars were shining bright. They whispered from high, your love said goodbye. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining. Shine on the one that's gone, say goodbye.
Bill Monroe is a musical legend. With his passing in 1996, the world lost a rare and amazing innovator in American music. To those who knew him, friends and family, they lost a dear friend. To his fans, his high honking tenor voice and lightning quick mandolin chops will only be heard on recordings. But he gave the world bluegrass music. Bill Monroe will live on as his music sounds through hills and hollers, cities and towns for years to come.
In 1991, I met Mr. Monroe near our home in North Carolina. I always like to hear Mr. Monroe sing. My favorite bluegrass song would be Lord Build Me a Cabin in the Corner of Glory Land by Bill Monroe. Mr. Monroe was surely the father of bluegrass music.
I've listened to Bill Monroe on the Grand Ole Opry many years. I had the pleasure of riding to the Grand Ole Opry with Mr. Monroe in his limousine. He allowed me to carry his mandolin backstage to his dressing room at the Grand Ole Opry. One of the greatest highlights in my time in life would be in the presence of Bill Monroe.
Well, every Saturday night we would have a singing, and half the neighborhood would use our house. Then on Sunday we'd get up and we'd walk to church. And then Mr. Bill Monroe, he came to town, and when he came to town, we all went to see him. When I got there, he didn't talk no more. He got stuck on me, and he said, "Can I have a date?"
I remember as a teenager in the mid-40s coming home with the family in the family car during a thunderstorm. And we had the car radio on listening to the Grand Ole Opry. And as we reached home, the announcer on the Grand Ole Opry introduced Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. Everyone except me in the car made a mad dash for the front door of a home. But I remained, and in spite of the interference from the thunderstorm, I stuck my ear to the speaker of the radio and listened to Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. It was with glee that I heard that music. And you know, Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys were unequaled, and there'll never be another Bill Monroe. He was indeed the father of bluegrass.
Listen to this man as he praises God throughout all the land. Now listen to this man, yes, listen to the preacher man.
In 1995, Bill Monroe returned to his home in Rosine, Kentucky for his final visit. Here we see his friends and fans welcoming him back with a homecoming celebration. It's impossible to cover the life of anyone as influential and as important to American music as Bill Monroe in a short documentary.
I hear a voice calling, it must be our Lord, it's coming from heaven on high. I hear a voice calling, I've gained the reward for the land where we never shall die. The Savior has paid a great price for me. He gave his life on Calvary. So I follow his footsteps up the narrow way, and be ready to meet him when he calls on that day. I hear a voice calling, it must be our Lord, it's coming from heaven on high. I hear a voice calling.
Through the courtesy of Bill Price, here is some concert footage of Bill Monroe. Here he is featured in an intimate setting from a few years ago. Hopefully seeing Bill Monroe in this setting, relaxed and among friends, will leave a lasting impression of the man and his universal appeal. Bill Price says the three words to Bill Monroe that are echoed by many.
I just got 3 words for you. I've got 4 for you. I love you. You do love me? Yes, sir. Can you remember, I don't remember the date, 39 years ago this month in 1952, when I was a junior in high school, I auditioned for you right here and sang a song with you, A Letter from My Daughter. Can you remember that? Maybe.
Can I play one here on your show?
Sure, we'd be glad to have you here.
Now this is a new number that I just put together back there, and you folks come up with a good title for it, and it would make me feel mighty good.
All right. What key is that, Mr. Munn? Key A here. Yes, to me. Here we go.
you old timers think about some old towns in this country, or some old rivers, or some old creeks, or just some old names, the one I'd like to have, you know, to use for the name for this year.
That's a good number. I enjoyed that number.
It's a good one. It'd be fine on the fiddle. That's what I'm going to put it on the fiddle.
All them boys you got, we can carry that too.
Yes.
We're looking forward to get there.
So think about it, would you? And I'm so glad to get to come back down here to this country and play for you folks. You know, I've toured all over the state of North Carolina back in 1936, all through the years back then, Charlie Monroe and me. And then later on, I went with the Bluegrass Boys, and I still come back over here and play a lot of days. But this is a wonderful state, and I love the people over here. And I'd just like to come back and play for you. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. And I'd just like to ask you one question. Will you promise you will answer me? Will you let us come back again sometime? Thank you. That's all I can do.
Bill, thank you. I got a special message from one of your dear friends, Mr. Charles Crutchfield over at WBT, where you were years ago.
Yes, sir.
He called me, said to give you his regards. He's a little under the weather, and he said he wished you a happy 80th in September. He's here in Charlotte, at WBT, you know, years ago, Crazy was Mr. Charlie Crutchfield. Wonderful. Yeah. Can we do just one verse of that song that I did with you 39 years ago around here? A letter from my darling, the kid, she. I can't answer her letter, for she let me know after. You should know my little love. You left my cold heart in this way. I wrote a letter from my darling. She said she wrote by saying I love you so. Thank you very much. I'm on my way back to the old home where I heard the first whippoorwill. Blue moon of Kentucky keep on shining on our little cabin home on the hill. It's mighty dark for me to travel. I've still got the old Michigan blues. I like your Uncle Pin play his fiddle while I break in a brand new pair of shoes. Soon I'm going back to old Kentucky to see the girl in the blue velvet band. Will you roll in your sweet baby's arms, dear, or will you still be loving another man? How will I explain about you, dear? You left me with the Blue Ridge Mountain Blues. Oh, can't you hear me calling for you, Bessie? When the bees are in the hive, I'll come to you. Was from my little Georgia road. I dreamed of a cabin of love here as I traced a little footprints in the snow. It's mighty dark for me to travel. I've still got the old Michigan blues. I like your Uncle Pin play his fiddle while I break in a brand new pair of shoes.
Thank you.